everybody wants to save more money. And if you look around YouTube, it seems like the magic number is around $10,000. And it's easy. You just need the 30-day rule, or the 2740 rule, or the 80 pence rule, good sir. But I don't think you're going to save $10,000 this year. And it's not you, it's just that it's not a very good goal. Not only is it arbitrary, but it doesn't actually jive with how your brain truly functions. Here at YNAB, we know a thing or two about saving. Our people save $6,000 on average in their first year. So in this video, I'm going to break down why a lot of our savings goals fall apart and show you what actually works. I'm Ben, and this is Sketchy Advice. Personal finance advice that actually works. There are three main reasons our savings goals fall apart. And spoiler, none of them have to do with laziness. Reason number one, you're running on a caveman operating system. Imagine telling a caveman or a cavewoman, hashtag #CaveGirlBoss, that they need to save $10,000 in a year. They'd be like, huh? Humans did not start out trying to max out Roth IRAs or beat the S&P 500. We started out with the basic goal of survival. And survival is about what's here and now. If I find a bunch of berries in a bush, I'm gonna eat those berries here and now. I'm not gonna try and 10x those berries into a shell corporation for tax sheltering purposes. Because if we don't eat, we die. That's cave math, baby. And here's the thing, as modern as you look, as good as you are at showing grandpa how to log into the Wi-Fi, you are still running on a caveman operating system. You still prefer the present to something far off in the future. Because that makes sense to your cave brain, even if it would make Clark Howard cry. The hot Clark Howard reference for all you cool kids. If you have to choose between buying the headphones you've been wanting, which are on sale right now, by the way, but not for much longer. Also, 14 people have looked at this same offer as you. There's no time. If you have to choose between that or saving money for the future, well, that's already not really a fair fight. So your caveman operating system already makes saving money difficult. But this kind of goal of save $10,000 in a year is made even more difficult because you're making decisions for a different you. Remember what teenage you thought grown-up you was gonna be like? Like what your career was gonna be, what your vibes would be, what you'd spend your money and time on? How's that going? Because 15-year-old Ben thought he would be running a very different YouTube channel in his 30s. I'll tell you that right now. People change. You change. And that's one of the reasons that long-term savings can be so dang tricky. According to this study from the University of Chicago, how well we prioritize our future self is based partly on how connected we feel to them. In other words, how similar do I think future me is going to be to me? Your future self, even just a year from now, can feel like a total stranger, which not only makes it easy to deprioritize them, it also makes it easy to make really optimistic assumptions about them. Future Ben will be more than happy to stop ordering takeout and stay away from the Board Game Deals subreddit. That guy's so responsible. Probably, I've never met him. That may be why this study found that people who pledged to save $300 next month tended to hit their goal, while people who pledged to save $650 in 4 months tend to save even less than the $300 people. That's why a lot of these videos about saving $10K start by breaking down the amount into something like $833 a month or $27.40 a day. They're trying to make it more immediate and concrete. And that's great, but we still have a problem. And it's the biggest problem. Focusing on net worth over net why. Why do you want to save $10,000? Odds are, it's just in case. And that's fine. But just in case doesn't have any color or smell or weight. If you dropped just in case on your foot, it wouldn't hurt. So it doesn't grab your imagination. It doesn't motivate you the way a cold, refreshing beer with your friends does, or a holly berry scented candle that you pass by in Hobby Lobby. To be honest, I'm not really even a fan of savings as a noun, because what does it even mean? You have savings. Okay, why? For what? What are you saving for? Most of these 10K savings videos exclusively focus on how to save $10,000. But there's a problem there. This study found that focusing on the specifics of how you want to save money is really great if your goal is just to save more. But they found that as soon as you introduce a target amount, this focus on how to save kind of starts to fall apart. Partly because you might get intimidated by how big the number is, or you'll get discouraged the minute you stop meeting your benchmark. If you're trying to hit a specific goal, weirdly, it's not as helpful to focus on how to save it. It's more helpful to focus on why you're saving it. What is the value, the joy, the promise that that savings will give you? So if we're going to save sustainably and effectively, the first thing we need to do is name our savings goals. Instead of saying, I want to save $10,000 this year, what if instead you said, I want to pay for my next car repair in cash? Or I want to take the whole family hiking in Maine next year? Because naming something can outright change your perception of that thing's value. I've talked about this study before, where students were given stress balls. Some of them were just given the stress ball, done, while others were told to give it a name, like Benesquish Cumberball. A little while later, they were asked how much money they would need to be paid to part with that stress ball. And students who gave their stress ball a name charged much higher prices than those who didn't. You can leverage that effect with your savings. If you're like me and you tend to be a spendy person, it's honestly not that hard to pull money from savings because, it's a big number. What's the difference? But it's a little harder to pull money straight from your wedding fund. And if you tend to be a little more gun-shy about spending, then this can actually free you up a bit. Pulling $900 from your savings can feel kind of crummy, even though that's kind of what savings is for. But pulling $900 from your car repairs fund feels a lot less bad because, well, that's its one job. That's how it's meant to be spent. So don't just think about savings. Think about the specific things you want to save for. Everything from repairs, to trips, to annual subscriptions, to a pool table. Write those things down. Take some time to reflect on why you want to save for those things. Why would having a pool table be so great? Or why would it feel so good to be able to pay for your next car repair in cash? Lean into that why, because it is going to supercharge your saving stamina. Then, break it down, girl. Start with those things that come due on a specific deadline, like insurance payments or registration or taxes or subscriptions. Count the number of months between now and when that thing is going to come due, then divide the total by that number of months. So if you're paying $300 a year for Masterclass Plus and it comes due in 7 months, divide $300 by 7. Now you need to set aside about $43 a month between now and that due date. We've done a few things here. First, by naming that goal, we're reflecting on your why. What's the value you get out of Masterclass? Why is it worth setting aside money for? Second, we've taken it from $300 in 7 months, which we know we're not really well wired to execute well, to $43 next month. We're naming a specific goal to focus our brain, we're breaking it down to make it more attainable and immediate, and we're taking time to reflect on why we actually want this thing in the first place. Because another way to save money is to say, you know what, I watched the Hans Zimmer one and I haven't touched it since then. Maybe I don't want to renew the subscription. That's saving money too. Not every savings goal operates on a schedule like that, so for things that are a little more loosey-goosey, like repairs, I like to think about how much I'd like to have in a year and then divide that by 12. So if I'm thinking it'd be nice to have $2,400 for a family trip in a year, then that's $200 a month. Once you've done all that, you should have a list of how much money you're going to need to set aside each month in order to hit those savings goals. Now, how realistic your savings goals are is going to depend on what you're actually doing with your money. And I find the best way to do that is to make a spending plan using YNAB's 5 questions. You can learn all about those questions and how to set up your spending plan in our video, the most important money video you'll ever watch. That might sound like hyperbole. Trust me, it's not. Hey, maybe you will save $10,000 this year, or more, or less. The amount really doesn't matter. What matters is that you are making progress toward the things that matter to you. So good luck this year, and I'll see you next time. Oh, wow. That was did I just die? Did I just break my neck?